Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Richard Kirk. I'm the founder of Workplus, and we're delighted to host today's session in partnership with CIPD and Ulster University. This one's been in discussion for some time. In the last few years, there's been consideration of developing a degree level apprenticeship in human resource management. So I'm delighted to be joined today by colleagues from Ulster University who are leading on the development of the programme. Also by Susan Heyman from CIPD, who's been championing this for some time as well. And also Paula Leatham, Head of HR at NIE Networks, who was an apprentice at the start of her career and is now heading up human resources at NIE Networks and can talk from an employer's perspective about the opportunity that's presented. We're going to record today's session, so it'll be available on demand afterwards. There is a poll live on screen, hopefully at the minute. If you can answer those questions, that would help us as we deliver today's session to know what you'd like to get from it, and also whether or not you currently employ apprentices within your organisation. So it's an opportunity for HR professionals to shape the opportunity, and this is ultimately to raise awareness of HR as a profession to young people and career changers, and it could also be used as a pathway for folks that are already within your organisation who want to upskill into a degree level programme. So it's a great opportunity for the profession to really promote itself and also to develop new talent within that pathway as well. So let's make a start. We're hopefully going to wrap up in about 45 minutes or so. So we'll let you get back to your very busy days. And there will also be a Q&A. So please do type in any questions that you may have, and that will help us to again make sure that we're answering any issues that you have. So I'll leave that poll open for a few more minutes. But without further ado, really, I'm really keen to get into the conversation. Paul, I'll maybe start with you. You've brought in individuals into your team through an apprenticeship already, albeit at a lower level. Can you tell us a bit about the decision that you made as an organisation to bring apprentices into the business?
Yeah, I think as an organisation who have a long history of apprenticeships, and albeit very much in our technical type apprenticeship routes, we have seen the benefits of that over many years. And for me, the apprenticeship route, it's a win-win for everyone. So you're bringing an individual into your business, you're bringing them into the culture of your organisation. They're learning on the job basically, and they're learning the technical aspects of what's required to fulfill the role. So if we're talking here from an HR perspective, the other big piece that they're learning very quickly is all the personal competencies, which are so important as well, around building that ability to work as part of a team effectively. Maybe those earlier pieces around negotiating and influencing skills. So they're doing all of that whilst then being supported through an educational route. Now, for us in this sort of HR type space, when I'd come into the organisation as a clerical apprenticeship, and albeit my pathway then took me through into doing a postgrad in HR and doing HR electives as part of my degree. So the idea of having a structured HLA is really exciting, as opposed to having to have taken a bit of a wiggly route to get to where I got to in the end. But it's definitely around that, supporting the individual whilst they're in the business. The twin track approach of having that alongside getting the experience, in this case through an HLA process with the HR people. And we've noticed in the recent past, we thankfully have been able to bring year out students back into the business in the last few years. And I'm very thankful that that's also been within the HR team. And to see the difference that makes to that young person or that student, that they're actually getting the experience. And I think it really has underscored for me, if they were doing it at the start, and not taken away from doing the degree course as well, from the point of view that's what someone's ambition is to do, but having the ability to come in the organisation earlier and actually put into practice what they're learning and seeing what it's actually playing out like in real time, when you're working with people, I think the benefits are huge.
Great. And Paul, you've mentioned that NIE Networks has had a rich heritage of
Mm,
apprenticeships. Many will understand the craft apprenticeships, the ones that we
mm-hmm,
maybe see when we're driving around, people working in trenches or up poles,
mm,
providing that critical infrastructure. But as you've developed apprenticeships in other areas within the organization, like what have been some of the challenges that you've had to overcome as a business, or has it been plain sailing as you've developed that apprenticeship culture?
No, I think just having the background, as we said, of knowing how to structure an apprenticeship program. But I mean, a lot of that has been done through collaboration with others. I mean, the work that we've done with you in the past through Workplus has been invaluable in developing a number of the additional pathways. Now, we would have around 15 different apprenticeship pathways now. And a number of those were developed on the basis of going to the market constantly and being unable to get the skills or fulfill the recruitment needs that we had. So knowing the success of apprenticeship programs and as I said at the start, they're bringing those people into your organization, molding them and growing up in the culture of your business. Is what we then sort of decided we would do for a number of those different pathways, and those have been extremely successful around like our planning department, where we would be out surveying people's properties to take electricity supplies into into them. You know, we just couldn't get people in those roles, so we've had two cohorts very successfully coming through that, working closely with yourself, Richard, and working very closely with Northern Regional College to develop a program that met our needs for the day release of those young people to make sure that they were getting that academic piece whilst learning on the job. So I think because we naturally have always had that ethos of apprenticeships, it wasn't a hard sell for us internally. It probably took us a bit longer than it should have to get there, from the point of view of realizing that that's the direction of travel that we should be going, and those have continued to be very successful for us.
It's great, great, thank you. Maybe come back to you in terms of some of the detail, because we can see from the poll that just under half of employers here have employed apprentices before. So we'll maybe come back to you with some questions that might come through on that. I would encourage you, folks, to please do submit your questions if you have any, and we'll pick out those that are most helpful for everyone here today. Susan, from a CIPD perspective, wanting to ensure that the profession is not just serving HR professionals, but serving the employment market really well, and also making it an attractive career to come into. Why are you so passionate about this degree level apprenticeship?
Unmute myself. There we go. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I mean, for us, CIPD, we always champion more accessible routes to employment. That's one of our main purposes, is to open up routes to employment. But it's really important that we have a CIPD apprenticeship because it combines the practical HR experience that you're getting that Paula just talked about with a professional qualification which reflects our standards of best practice. So when you have both of those, the individual is benefiting, but it's also the organization that they're working with. As the professional body for HR, our qualifications are widely recognized by employers. So completing a CIPD apprenticeship just shows that you're meeting these industry standards, not just internally, but across the whole profession. It also ensures that employers can have that high quality, more structured learning. Unlike kind of informal training, a CIPD apprenticeship would follow a clear framework covering key areas that employers need, like employee relations or recruitment, employment law, organizational development. So this means that the apprentices will gain this sort of well-rounded, more relevant knowledge. But another reason why it's important to us is we want to make sure that by building professionalization, we're looking at the credibility and the career progression of these people. So when you're completing a CIPD apprenticeship, it can lead to things like associate or chartered membership later on. And this is where CIPD can support in being that career partner for the long term. So again, for it's organizations who are taking this up, it ensures that your HR team is competent and up to date with the CIPD standards of best practice, and also all of the relevant information that we're required as the awarding body to therefore make sure our practitioners are up to date with.
Great, thank you, thank you. Lorna, maybe come to you. You are already leading on the HRM program, which is the full-time undergraduate. So for Ulster, well, what's the differential for this program? Why are you getting behind this one?
Yeah, I suppose Yeah, big question. But the main thing is that it's offering a part-time pathway. So at the minute there's only a full-time pathway there. And we see the value in our undergraduate program with the placement year, as Paula mentioned already. So we see how students come back from that placement year and how they're able to apply their learning and apply the context in terms of what they've been working within in that year. So it's a much richer experience in that final year program. And we get a lot of feedback in our NSS, our National Student Survey results. And students often comment that it's the pinnacle of the degree program is having that experience and that exposure. And nearly they wish they had it earlier to be able to apply that learning that they got in their second year more immediately. So I think that's from our perspective, I think it just adds to the context of their learning more immediately, and they're able to apply that. So a richer experience for the employers involved, but also the students as well in terms of what they're gaining from it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Lauren, you prepared some slides that might be helpful to guide us through that. If I share those, maybe that might be useful
Sure
in
do,
terms.
yeah. I think probably most of the points have probably already been covered, but yeah, go ahead and share them.
Yeah, hopefully that's coming through now. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I think Richard, you touched on this earlier. You know what is a HLA, and it's really just combining that work and study piece. So it is a win-win for all, as Paula mentioned as well. I think for us as a university, and particularly the business school, it's an opportunity for us to support organisations and HR teams to further kind of develop their talent pipelines, and again just like opening up that other career pathway into the profession, which I think is really key. um, Probably the more important point here, Richard, to maybe skip on to is
mm,
probably around like the content and the structure. I don't know if you're going to probably ask me that question, but the plan is for this HLA is to run alongside our current undergraduate program. So we know that it's already hugely successful, and also it's CIPD accredited, as Susan mentioned there, and that's the reason for kind of running alongside to get it up off the ground. We already know it's been hugely successful, and I just think it would add to the current program, the HLA piece, with that earlier exposure to experience. So there's no difference in terms of modules that will be offered as such. There's a few tweaks at certain points, but on the whole, it'd be the same offering. Um, so yeah, a CIPD accredited HLA. So by the end of it, the students will be able to gain their associate level CIPD membership.
that's great.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, no, no. That's so there is there a requirement during the program to be doing work around CIPD competencies and the likes is on top of the learning and the workplace job.
Yeah, so how it's structured, Richard, is basically our undergraduate program and the HLA will be mapped to the CIPD profession standards. So the CIPD professional map that I'm sure most people will be aware of. So all of our teaching and our modules are kind of signed off to those standards. So really, there's no we teach that within the program, so there's no additional needs as such for them to doing their own, although it would be beneficial for them to have that student membership and also be working on their own CBD elements within the CIPD kind of membership benefits to progress their career. So on the program, in short, no, there's no additional kind of requirements of them. It's taught within the program. But yeah, just for more personal professional development, they could pursue some further developments outside of that.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. That's great. And just to pick up a couple of questions coming in here. Jill, you very kindly already answered one from Yvonne Kennedy. Is there going to be an age limit? As I have an employee who would like to do the degree and already has CIPD level 5, and Jill's rightly made the point there. No, there is no age limit to join the program. The requirement is either they're a new employee coming into the organization, they're an employee that has started within the last 6 months, or if it is an existing employee that has been in for more than 6 months or 16 years or whatever, they need to be moving into a new job role. So that's the requirement from the Department for the Economy. And back to the point that was made earlier, that enables the fees to be paid for by the government because they see that this is an investment in someone's career progression as well. So please, yeah, continue to use the Q&A function, and I'll just pick up on another couple as they come in. So Gary has asked, what level of CIPD qualifications are you looking at, 3, 5, or 7? So maybe just to reinforce that, if you can, Lauren, that'd be great.
Yeah, Susan, you might be more kind of a fay with this, but I believe it's level 7 for us coming out of the degree program.
Yeah, so once you finish the degree, it's a level 7 but you only have associate membership. In order to gain chartered membership, you need a level 7 plus a couple of 2 to 3 years of work experience, and you can apply for chartered membership that way.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point in terms of the benefits again of the HLA is that these apprenticeships will likely move through those ranks a lot faster compared with the kind of traditional routes.
Yeah, they'll have the work experience embedded
Yeah,
in. So
yeah.
they do the upgrading assessment pretty much as soon as they finish.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks very much. 2 questions coming in about exactly the same issue. So clearly it's a hot topic. How long will the degree level apprenticeship pathway take? And will there be any academic entry requirements on that? Lauren, maybe one for you again.
Yeah, so the length of the program is proposed at the minute as 4.5 years. Now there is opportunity, and this is where we kind of want some feedback from the employers, I suppose, in terms of what would work best for them. There is opportunity to reduce that down to 4 years, or 3.5 with some summer teaching. But again, that is kind of where we need some feedback from employers who will be involved in it. To see whether they are happy to release students, for example, through for a summer teaching module.
Yeah, I can add that to the poll at the end, actually, Lauren, and then we could. So
Brilliant.
that's about summer teaching modules to try and shorten.
Try and reduce the term. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine with
I
that.
think actually, can I just come in on that too, Richard? I think that's a really good idea, and I think as an employer, as long as that's sort of scheduled within the framework. But I also think it's really helpful just bringing them all back in together as well, for that sort of longer period of time rather than just a day here and a day there. But I think that's a good way of maybe managing that time frame, Lauren.
Yeah. And when I say summer teaching, in case there's people aren't maybe familiar with how it works here at the institution, so we're not talking like all summer long. It's really just June, and that can be also we're flexible in terms of how that's framed as well. So it can be like a 3-day block, it can be 2 days over like 2 weeks. So there's flexibility around that. But again, we would like to have conversations with employers on what might work best.
Okay, that's great. We'll make sure that that's picked up in the poll at the end. So thank you, Lauren, for that. That's great. That's great.
And then the other question there, sorry, Richard, that you mentioned about the academic qualifications. And Jill, you're maybe more suitable to answer this, but I believe that it's probably going to be the same kind of entry requirements in terms of at the minute our undergraduate is a BCC, and in English and Maths GCSE. Jill, I don't know, is that correct?
Yeah, so yeah, that will be if someone is coming in new, that would be, so it would be exactly the same as the undergraduate. But if you have people that are in your organisation and have significant work experience, that is something we will take in to account, and that is something that Ulster is very good at and wants to promote. So please do talk to us if you have individuals that you feel wouldn't meet that but would have a significant work experience, and they could be APEL'd.
Great, thank you for that, Jill. Just to suppose a follow-on from that, there's another question here. Would there be scope for successful CIPD level 5 learners to get APEL to allow faster track completion? Maybe that's quite a technical question, but any thoughts on that, or maybe one we can come back to?
It's a good point, and I think it's probably something that we would have to look at on an individual basis. I know we get queries like that in terms of our undergraduate. Can people enter it kind of year two or year three? So I think it would probably have to be assessed on an individual basis to look at what modules maybe they've covered and where we can maybe then fit them into the current kind of proposed structure. So yeah, definitely like if that is a case for any individuals, we would have it in like a conversation around that, perhaps, Jill.
I think it's worth saying just on the apprenticeships in general, if they're coming in, the university like you to complete just as regards funding and how it works, they do like you to come in and complete all levels of the qualification. But again, this is still very early days, and Lauren and I have just put the proposal in. So again, those are details that we are working out. And again, if the funding is successful, you can talk to us and we can have a look at that.
Great, thank you. Another question around, is this just for HR? Is there a possibility for it to be open to L&D professionals as well?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be opposed to L&D. I think probably in terms of the offering and in terms of the content, it is probably more like it's a kind of, how to term it, in general kind of offer, and we'll cover all areas of HR practice. There will be elements of L&D in there. There'll be HR analytics, people analytics. So I think that is still applicable for L&D professionals, definitely, if that's something that they want to pursue.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I know we've talked a bit about it being level 7. A point being made here about, are there plans for level 5, level 7 leaning more towards senior roles, where level 5 might be a bigger opportunity for more people to be involved. Anyone want to pick that one up? Or if not, that's fine. We can.
I think Jill and I had this conversation with an employer earlier this year, and there's just a bit. I know for a fact level 5 is quite popular. It's a bit of a shorter for early careers. People seem to enjoy it, but there's a difficulty with the points, or the accredited points that you need to accumulate in order to get the apprenticeship. So the level 7 has enough points in the content in order for us to deliver it, whereas the level 3 and 5 just don't at the moment. Or the credits, that's it, not points, the credits, accreditation.
Okay. Paula, can we bring you back in on that? I know we're talking here about a program that's at level 7, but does your HR admin apprentice, are they doing even CIPD level 3 alongside that?
Yeah, well, the individual that we brought in through your own Workplus recruitment process, it was a level 3 business administration was the initial one, and they're now completing the CIPD qualification. I just would need to look back around just to check what that is. I imagine it is around the level 5. So that's really nice, supporting her, I suppose, from the point of view of HR is definitely the space that she wants to be in. Other colleagues over the years, I suppose this is again is the benefit of this from the point of view that because they're learning from the ground up within the team. If you even think of an HR information system, it can be quite complex, and I'll be the first one to hold up my hand. That's definitely not my forte. So bringing them in at that sort of lower level through whether it's an apprenticeship or a higher level apprenticeship, and they're actually actively on a daily basis seeing that whole. I mean, I think you mentioned it, Susan, that whole employee life cycle. Right from recruitment, induction, on board, just every piece of it right through, and being in that admin role, they're getting a wealth of experience and knowledge that they wouldn't otherwise get. So again, by default, we have a couple of really successful individuals here now in our HR advisory team who come into us through an HR admin route and continued to professionally develop themselves by achieving the different levels of the standard CIPD qualifications. And it has just shown that trajectory for them and then within that HR team.
That's super. Very good. And Paul, so if you have someone coming in who has already done an HRM degree coming in as a graduate compared to someone that may come in on a program like this, do you anticipate a lot of difference? Is there more mentoring required, a bit more time for an apprentice compared to a graduate?
I honestly don't believe so, Richard. I think it goes back to what I said at the start. The graduate obviously has had the benefit of the longer time within the university setting and, may have a more in-depth knowledge as a result of that from a theoretical perspective. But your apprentice is going to have the more on the job experience and have learnt, um, how it actually plays out in practice, will have integrated more into the team. So, we would have a very strong culture of that support from a mentoring perspective anyway, irrespective of how you come into the business. So I think they still would have that mentoring need, but it might be slightly different.
Okay, that's good. So it's not a huge additional burden on the
No,
organization. That's
no,
good.
like absolutely not. And do you know what, as well? One of the things that we have seen time and time again as an employer who employs apprentices, they want to be there. They're doing an apprenticeship because it's the right thing for them. It's the
Mm,
pathway that they've chosen. I mean, one of Lauren's slides earlier as well, if you think about it from a financial perspective, you're earning as you're learning. And when I reflect back to myself, I knew I didn't want to be at school. I'd gone back in lower sixth, but knew it wasn't for me, but went back on the basis of I had to be doing something at that point in time. And then
yeah.
when the opportunity arose to do an apprenticeship program, that was just me, very practical, wanting to be involved, much more hands-on. So it's definitely a pathway that works for many people versus the pathway that you still will have as your traditional degree route as well.
Yeah, right, right. Jill, maybe bring you at this point. Again, we've been talking about this for some time. But for you, what's your ambition for this program, and maybe give us a sense of where some of the next steps might be for employers that want to get involved.
Sure. Um, as Richard said, we've kind of been chatting about this, and I look after other apprenticeships in the business school, and they've been just hugely successful and growing. And as we've been talking to employers, the demand for this particular apprenticeship has been obvious. So I suppose just to caveat that, and Ivana, so you've put a question in to say we have put a proposal into DFE for funding for this, but we haven't been told yet whether we're going to get the funding. So I suppose Richard and I just thought this is a good idea to kind of gather all your questions and get as much information as we can at this stage, and feed that back to DFE. Um, we don't know when it will go live or if it will go live. It depends on the funding being secured. Going on previous years, it's usually around June before we actually get the go ahead from DFE. So what we will do is Lauren and I will keep the pressure up. And as soon as we know, we will share that with Richard, and Richard can share that information with yourselves. Experience, I suppose, has taught us that very often in the first year, because of the late notice of the funding, it can start small. But because, as Lauren said, she's already running the programme, that's fine for us. We can start with small numbers and just build that up year on year. And that's what we've done with other programmes, which has worked really well. And I suppose just saying, from our point of view, as Paul has shared hers from an employer, we're really experienced in running HLAs and have the largest number across sort of Northern Ireland. So they do get really, really good support from us and the team at Ulster. There isn't a huge difference, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say, is if they're coming out as graduates, if they're coming out as apprentices, because we are preparing them that whole time for that world of work. And in Lauren's case, they will be working alongside those full-time undergrads, which will give them a really lovely experience and a really lovely network as well to go out to employers with.
That's great. That's great. And having worked with Ulster over the years and many other learning providers, there's a real uplift as well in terms of the university staff being able to tune in to real time experience as well. That's been one of those unintended consequences
Yeah.
we found of those degree level apprenticeship programs. There's a lovely learning mode that happens, and I think everyone just really improves through this model. So it's one that's definitely really helpful. Um, so just checking in on hands up here. So any more questions coming through that we can pick up on? So questions there. Academic entry routes, we picked up on those already. And then Jill, you're answering the when will this go live, but you've already picked up on that, I suppose. So that's helpful. Okay. So based on where we are right now, it's not guaranteed that it will start in September. But one of the best ways that we can ensure that it's most likely to is by having more employers saying that they want it. And from our experience of developing apprenticeships over the last 7 years, that certainly is a really important factor. Department for the Economy are responsive whenever they know that there's demand out there. So this is really important that we get feedback on this opportunity. I'm just going to share a few slides in closing, but I just like to go around everyone, just if any final remarks that you would have to encourage those who maybe aren't currently employing apprentices, maybe to consider apprenticeships more generally, but also this program. So maybe Susan, I'll start with you, and then I'll go to Paula and Lauren and Jill.
Sure, thanks. I guess final closing thoughts. Getting this accredited apprenticeship with CIPD accreditation, it demonstrates a strong commitment to professionalism and ethics. CIPD places really strong emphasis on the ethical practice and responsible business, which helps organizations build trust with employees and sort of avoid reputational risks. So I think a CIPD apprenticeship matters a lot to organizations because it does produce HR professionals who are not only experienced, but qualified, credible, and more aligned with organizational culture and general industry best practice. So again, as Richard said, the more employers who are saying, we really would appreciate this, we would like to have more people, professionals coming in through different routes of employment who are accredited, it's just beneficial all around. Thanks.
That's great. Thanks. Paula, any final reflections?
Everything Susan said. No, I think, it is so important, like the CIPD and having that professionalism, as you've said, Susan, and ensuring that people coming through any of those pathways or routes have the right support and behind them, I suppose, on that whole learning piece, which obviously university creates that environment for them. For me, the apprenticeship, just generally, apprenticeships, HLAs, it's as an employer having the ability to really watch somebody flourish and develop, and you are playing such a huge part in nurturing that, and just seeing that person, as I say, just come to life, I suppose, on the basis of getting such a variety of experience, both from the employer and from the university.
Great, thank you. Lauren, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I suppose I just want to emphasize the support piece there, and Jill kind of touched on it, and Paula and Susan as well. But from a university point of view, and from us as in the Ulster Business School, we will provide support for employers and for the students. So there tends to be cohort leads with each employer, and they're there to support employers and the students. So it just, meetings will take place, and we might even look at, in terms of shaping the program further down the line, and maybe adding a work-based module to add value to those tripartite meetings. So adding credits to those, like ensuring that they're meeting objectives and so on. But as well, I suppose I want to point out too, in terms of the shaping of the programme, while it's kind of at the moment to get it off the ground, going to be really aligned with our undergraduate programme, that undergraduate programme is going through a revalidation process next year. And I suppose it's really important to highlight at this stage, for those who do get involved, could be key kind of external stakeholders in terms of feeding into that, like the shape of how the programme would look and how we can meet kind of industry needs, employer needs on the programme.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for that. Okay, Jill, have you any final comments before we wrap up now?
I think it's all been covered, but I think I just feel, having experienced and working with apprentices, I'm really passionate that it is a really good opportunity, not just for the apprentice, but for yourselves. As Lauren said, it's an opportunity to have a three-way partnership and really develop not just the talent, but the course and what's coming out of the course. And those tripartite agreements really do influence what's going on, not just with the apprentice, but in the university. So I just think it's a really cost-effective, unique way to get involved. So
Great.
fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. I'll just maybe just close with a few thoughts. The question that I get asked most as a direct message on LinkedIn by business leaders. Does anyone want to have a guess? Some of you might have heard me give this answer before. So someone once said, "Oh yeah, well, is it how much does apprentice cost to hire?" No, it's not that. Can I employ an apprentice? No, it's not. Um, it's can you help my son or daughter find an apprenticeship? And the irony is that a lot of those business leaders don't employ apprentices within their own organization. And Jill, you've mentioned about those that have come through and the success that they've had. The challenge really remains is finding an apprenticeship opportunity. And having talked about this for years, it's wonderful that we're now at a stage where we're just on the cusp of developing this degree because when we go out to schools across the country, talk to parents, teachers, young people, they don't just want STEM apprenticeships. Many do, but it's great that there is something which is more human apprenticeship, which is a vocational subject, which you all know about, and it's not something you learn from a book. So I'm delighted to see this one come forward. Just before we do close, I'm just going to share a few slides about potentially some next steps that we could potentially help with on that. Um, Workplus was set up about 7 years ago to really change how careers are found here in Northern Ireland. And a big part of that is to change the apprenticeship culture. And what we've done is we've created a bespoke platform that's been shaped by employers like Paula and many others and also the applicants and their influencers. And we create these campaigns. We've just closed one back at the end of February, and the candidates are being shortlisted and interviewed and offered this month. And then we'll have another campaign which will run in June. So if that's something that you'd like to be involved in, if you're thinking more broadly about apprenticeships, but also about this particular program, we'd be delighted to have you involved in that because we have way more applicants than we do opportunities to apply to. What we do within that as well, we've got an employer support hub. So we have all the apprenticeship pathways in one place for you. We're there to support you throughout that process. My team are there at a touch of a button, helping advise you around contracts about how much should I pay my apprentice, and other resources within our hub. Now, then for the applicant, that makes it really simple. It's like a UCAS experience for apprenticeships. So they've got a clear time frame, they know when they should apply, and they can apply to multiple employers in one place and rank them so that whenever you come to shortlist, you can see, well, who really wants to come and work for us. So there's the idea of tracking and being able to manage people through the process. And we've got really great reach across Northern Ireland. Last year, we had 1,500 applicants for various apprenticeships, and we can't wait to put this HR degree on the menu for those who are exploring apprenticeships. So very excited about this opportunity. As we come to close, if you could take just a minute or two just to complete the last poll, that would be fantastic. I'm just going to launch it now. And that would be a good opportunity to hear how useful today's session was. Do you plan to employ an apprentice through this pathway starting this September? And would you like to be part of a campaign that's profession wide? And then back to Lauren's point, would you be open to having your apprentice on summer teaching modules if you did take them on? Paula, you did have your hand up there. Was that an active hand or
Yeah.
an old hand? Sorry.
No, it was just around, even just thinking about, I suppose this is more the wider market in relation to encouraging people into apprenticeships and HLAs. As an employee of an organisation, you have access to all the benefits that come with that. It's not just about your pay and a mentor. So if I think of NIE Networks as an organisation, we have a very strong health and wellbeing agenda. We have a very strong diversity and inclusion agenda. We have very strong personal development, learning and development. So, for anyone considering an apprenticeship, there's so many benefits alongside the fact that you're earning and learning at the same time. So it's just coming to my mind actually just while I was listening to something else. So
Great. Great. Thank you. Thanks very much. My interest in apprenticeship started back 10 years ago now, and it was when I was working in civil engineering sector. And it took a group of companies that were all competing for the same talent pool to come together to create something. And that's where Workplus started. And now we work with all sectors, but it was really that sense of actually we want to make the target of our profession much bigger by working together around this. And I think there's an opportunity to do that for the HR profession through this program and to make it a first choice for young people and people looking to change careers to come into the profession. So um, without further ado, I suppose we are keen to wrap up, keep things to time, allow you to get back to your busy day. Thanks so much to Susan from CIPD, Paula from NI Networks, and both Lauren and Jill from Ulster University for bringing their insights to today's session, answering the questions, and hopefully it's been inspiring for you. We look forward to seeing you on the next one, and please do complete that poll so that we can feed that information back to university and then back to DFE and move on with this. So thanks very much, everyone, for your time, and we'll see you soon.